We're gonna start our board meeting. Yep, flag's right there. To the flag, United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Members present. All the non-Vikings fans here. Yeah, I think that had a big reason. Before a motion to approve today's agenda. I'll make a motion. Thank you, Zach, in a second.
T-Rex middle second.
All right, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Visitor comments? Looks like we don't have any, okay? Special recognitions and honors.
Mr. Vice Chair, today we have 4 individuals that we're gonna recognize for 4 different categories. Mr. Milbrand, our ag teacher. I don't know if you've been out and seen the advancement in our ag programming, partnerships with local businesses and projects. Nick's just been, you can't go anywhere without seeing Nick. He's probably still at work even now. Casey Duvier, she's done a lot with our intervention. She's like just right on the same parallel as a teacher. And then you got, she was here earlier, but Mary Johnsrud, Jennifer Erickson, Megan Green, and Deidre Williams. They've had these Wonder Wednesdays, so it's like a STEM stream opportunities at the elementary and the more on Wednesdays. And then Nicole Meisner, she's just done an incredible job over at Wayne. She's just a go-getter for us, and just want to recognize her tonight. So beats that.
Okay, looking for approval of the minutes of the following meetings. The September 26th regular school board meeting.
I'll make a motion over that motion.
Okay. Thank you, Angie. Second.
T-Rex middle second.
All right, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, consider approved claims, accounts, donations, and gifts. I'll go through invoices.
Now I'll go quickly through some bills tonight. Just looking at the bills. I don't think there's anything that's out of the ordinary. I think there's a copy of bills for you in your packet. If you want to look down. Tonight you're gonna approve checks written for, what was the total again, Drew?
$1,004,256.03.
So, let's see, reminder, anything big in here?
Doesn't look like anything massive
No,
that we don't normally see.
no.
I went through there's one check that we're gonna be writing tomorrow to Norcosco. That's the first, payment towards the auditorium project for the lights. That's,
Okay.
just getting started up now.
What is Aeroform?
That is, that was a check for, part of the baseball budget. It's for, new portable pitching mounds that the baseball association, they cover half the costs.
Okay.
So on the, I believe that's on the donations listing for the month, there's the baseball association donated for half the cost of the pitching mounds.
Okay, investor report, you can see on page 21, really no change. And then donations you can see on the next page. Take the next page and go back to
That one, Great. Check before checks.
Donations, you can see
Doesn't have anything listed out.
7251, 45. Okay.
Nobody we need to recognize there?
Okay.
Well, we have to do it.
Got food service report. The only thing I throw on the food service is, you can see her overall, revenue and expenditures. As I mentioned earlier, you're gonna gonna see, our food service balance is still pretty strong. You can see we're offsetting some of our expenditures because we're sitting on $182,000 fund balance. Oh, and we haven't really seen
It
that.
might look a little bit, alarming, I guess, to start off the year. This is, we just got our first, batch of reimbursements for, meals that were submitted, so, those are gonna start trickling in here a little bit more, throughout the next couple weeks. And when I talked with Vicky about it this morning, she said it's kind of ordinary for it to have a lot more expenses to start off the year, and then, the revenues sort of catch up throughout the year. The fund balance is pretty strong going into the year, so there isn't any concerns with it, in that area. That's, yeah, and then the food service report might look a little bit different from what you've seen in previous years with the, food service department. They switched, software programs this year to a new, program, so we're kind of working out the kinks, figuring out exactly what, we need to do to get the best report, so we can recreate what we've done in the past. So going forward, it might look a little bit different next month, and the month after that might look a little bit different, but, the, main takeaway I would say is that the, might look a little bit upside down right now, but I would expect it to catch up over time throughout the next couple months. We'll be getting more reimbursements for meals submissions into the state, and, that's my 2 cents on the food service report right now.
Thanks, Drew.
Revenue expenditure, anything there, or do you want to do your superintendent's report before we vote?
Revenue expenditure, you can just start to see we're drawing our revenues, right, 14%. And then you can see, expenses, we're at 27%, so we're obviously gonna start the year a little more in the hole because we pay a lot of front-end pieces, and then we'll get reimbursed all the way to the end of June, so. Superintendent's report, Lonnie and I shared, shared his board report last week. I think the big key takeaway, Phil, you here? So we'll, slow it in. TV's on.
A mile away,
Yeah.
2.7 miles.
just grab that cord and yank it and see if it comes over.
Enrollment, we were down one kid, but we enrolled 3 today, so we're up 2 as of today. So I watched them, I put all the students that are enrolled otherwards, and I'll make sure I put all the kids who are getting in. Tonight we had district advisory, which is great. Tonight, you're gonna hear from Scott and his team on PALS and the world's best workforce. So PALS are just parents of Laker students. I'm really looking at potentially adding a student to our school board, because I think it would just body some aspect from a student's perspective. And so we would put applications out there and you could interview. I'd like it to be in our student council, just so you get a better representation of, who that might be, but you could choose whoever you want. This is our district advisor who we invited. This is the slideshow we just went through. And this is just going through our board agenda tonight. Like I said, world's best workforce, PALS. That's pretty much it. We have staff development on Monday, so there's the plan there. I'm giving out to staff tomorrow. Here's our plan for a half-day staff development on the 4th. Just a reminder, Veterans Day program is on Friday, 11/11 at 9 a.m. And then, we're in the middle of a civil rights compliance review, so they're gonna be on site on the 25th. We had a leadership meeting, so in our elementary and middle school, we went through bus driver safety. There's a lot of curriculum work being done on the 24th, on staff development day. Parents and Pancakes is tomorrow morning. Nate talked a little bit about, he went to a training on basically a profile of a teen killer, pieces of that. And then we added a decal right over here to our media center. It was really to break up, something in our media center. And then I think Wynn even picked up a kid. Susie, are you here?
I think she's outside.
I think Wynn just picked up 2 more kids on Monday, so tonight, you'll be a recommendation to add a staff member because we're picking up enrollment over there. And then over here, you'll see Drew's got the auditor who's here Thursday, he'll be back tomorrow. We went to a new online time clock, that'll be good. Angie did all the homeschool paperwork. I think we have 82 homeschool kids right now that share up there. Mark, we're just working on, we bought, because of the FCC, we were able to buy new PCs for all our classroom teachers. They're a box about this big. They're going to bring them out. There was a law passed last year, the state, Minnesota statute 13.32, sub D 14 Bravo 5. Basically, if I wanna go on your device and you were a student and you were doing something on your device, it would need to be honestly, life threatening or threatening someone else's life, like a serious incident, where Nate can go search your email or search anything even though it's on our server. Just your limit on how much and how far you can serve. So we do have a program, what's it called again?
I forget what it's called, it pops up red flag alert on mine.
So basically, if I wanted to hop on Google right now and I wanna talk about how to commit suicide, they'd probably send a red flag email to Sarah or Nate. And just allows you, if it was talking about school shootings, just certain words would trigger.
Yeah, I probably get 25 a day, 30 a day. And just sift through, and a lot of it, right now, they're searching up the Boston Massacre in the history course, so.
Yeah.
So I get about 100.
So massacre's the key word
I
there?
get about 100.
Who's doing their homework?
You can tell who does it late. Yeah.
So,
Must be due really soon.
We got a lot of damage if they have those guns.
I did reach out to Christy Hastings back in September, and she did give a ruling, but, basically it needs to be, it has to go beyond the I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Before you start searching stuff. We basically went through and we're updating everybody's immunizations, because our immunization report due by the 1st of November. Buildings and grounds, we just went through, there's a handicap push in that door, I think it's getting actually installed. The electrician's here, they started working in the auditorium, at least you're gonna see the bids come through. Yeah. We're working on honestly looking at our winter fleet, potentially purchasing a Bobcat, or, a skidster, and potentially a lawnmower with a blower, a full lawnmower with a cab with a blower. We don't really have anything. The concern is that we don't get short-handed some days. I did work with Mars, we do, if you decide if I wanna go drive a bus for Palmer, they do give me a $250 grant to get to the school, and we give it right to the employee. So we really encourage our current employees we were short 3 bus drivers last week, that's why we were an hour late. Because they were short 3. Last week was National School Lunch, so you saw lots of cool things. And I just put a shout out for food service, in my time here, we were really in trouble with food service, like auditor was gonna pull all federal funding from us. It's not because we didn't have good people, there's just a lot of rules, and when they came to the audit, we were not in compliance with all those rules. Last year, we were an exemplary site, and a lot of that has to do with the work of, we partnered with Alec, and then we worked on our own. But, Bridget took over those reins, and it's gone extremely well. So some people like to complain, my own kids, what's for lunch? It's like, well, I think it's actually pretty good, so just stop me. And then Phil, a lot of work, I think you saw, we had the Hall of Fame weekend, Homecoming Hall of Fame, the gym updates have been in there, been pretty much up to date. We sent some students, they're gonna come present to the board on why, together we make a difference because of some of the incidents seen across the state of Minnesota when it comes to, some rivalry schools getting together and some of the hazing around. So that, and the sections are starting, tennis is over, soccer's over, cross country's going soon, we're in football, final game tomorrow, or Wednesday, playoffs Tuesday. And then midterm, all the grades, community ed. And then I shared this with the board, there was an issue, with the student jumping off a railing, causing gouge on the floor, so just talked about making sure we do have a schedule for supervision across, to make sure, in a world that we have so many people in our buildings and went through that piece, so not too worried about that. Then these are the bids I put out there for, skid steer lawnmower. Just right now, we couldn't mow grass if we wanted to, we're even caught a finch, and we just have a tool cap. And the Joyce Jenny, piece, so. That's really what's going on, and I'm working with Nate. Agard's looking at giving us 30K, get a robotics team up and running next year. So we have a robotics section this next spring, so we're gonna, the grant would go in January, so we're looking at investing in a robotics class. The parent teacher conferences went well, you can just see, and a lot of this goes to Kristen Quell and Angie for all the work they've been doing on social media. So she's got posts already scheduled out there on Facebook, it'll go out. So that's for that report. Any questions? Okay.
All right, Angie, you looking for a motion to approve?
Make motion to approve all these bills and updates.
All right, give me a second.
T-Rex on the second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I have to abstain. All right, motion carries. Okay, resolution number 1017200, accepting donations to the school district. Same as always?
Yep.
Same as always, I'll make a motion to do that. I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Consent calendar.
New hires. The red is the only one that was not in the budget, that's because we were actually adding students at Lynn. So this will more than pay for itself. So we're adding Manette Johnson, she's been there, long-term subbing, gonna keep her, we just picked up 4 new kids. I think fourth grade maybe. And then you'll see recreational hire, I set that cost now, so I'm hiring subs. So Connie Hagan and Dave Mo.
You say they're all before?
No, but we have a class partner with fourth and fifth.
Oh, I think
So we
so,
have
we
a
picked up
fifth.
4 new kids in the fourth.
Sorry, I should have said it. We would have a fourth and a fifth grade class.
Got it.
And then you'll see Connie and Dave Mulvey and did interviews and just bring on 2 long-term subs, so we'll curb some of our expenditures. Some basketball, paraprofessional, change status, and that's consent calendar.
Okay. Looking for a motion to approve?
T-Rex will make a motion.
Please, Ted, give me a second.
I'll second.
Please, Zach, all those in favor? Aye. Motion carries. All right, consider approval of 2021-2022 World's Best Workforce Report.
Is that number 10?
It's 11. Oh, I skipped 10, sorry. That's right, that's what we just did. We have consent calendar, this is all consent calendar. So we're on to this one, so the
Okay.
formatting is
Nice.
screwed me up too. It's no space there. All right, looking for,
I struggle.
sorry, Ed.
My bad.
Didn't mean to call you out publicly. Request to adopt a resolution establishing a combined polling place here for multiple precincts and designating hours during which the polling place will remain open for voting for school district elections not held on the day of this statewide election. Same thing we do every election year, right? Just so we can.
Allows us to establish our facility as a voting location.
All right. All right, I'll make a motion to approve that. Give me a second. Thank you, Angie. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Now, World's Best Workforce Report.
Scott,
You have the presentation. So this portion of the report is required by the state of Minnesota as part of World's Best Workforce legislation. It started back in 2013. And you can go ahead and go to the next slide. So we have this publication that was put out here a year ago as outlining our World's Best Workforce Plan. Next slide. And the MDE requires, back one, there you go. MDE requires that all school districts have, create goals in the following 5 areas, and that we track our progress on those goals and that we report those out publicly each year as to how we did the previous year on those goals. The goals are all listed here. We have to develop a goal in the area of school readiness, making sure kids are ready to go to school. making sure that all kids are able to read by third grade, because research shows that essentially, if you have them reading by third grade, their chances of success academically goes up tremendously. Closing identified achievement gaps. All students having opportunities to attain career and college readiness before graduating from high school, and then of course all students graduating from high school. So that was what we had to have goals in each of those areas. If you wanna go to the next one here. So Sarah Nestor is with us, and she can talk to you about goal 1 that had to do with school readiness and how we did.
Perfect. So our goal for this area of the world's best workforce was that 75% of our students entering kindergarten would show proficiency in 3 literacy areas: vocabulary, language, phonological awareness, and alphabet knowledge. We use the Peli assessment tool as our tool, and that is closely tied to Minnesota Reading Corps. As you can see our results below, so for vocabulary and oral language, 84% of our preschoolers were proficient, 78% in phonological awareness, and 70% in alphabet knowledge. Overall, very, very promising data, very good scores. We were fortunate enough last year to have Reading Corps support in every single classroom, which goes to show based on how our kids did. We also had professional development opportunities and data time for our staff to dig into what the kids are doing. We've implemented PLCs at our preschool level for teachers to have that additional time to collaborate, and then lastly, just adding to our program and offering full day options.
And then we did decide on a goal revision. If we feel like we're meeting the goal that's in place, we don't want to just sit, kind of hold pat on that. We want to revise our goal and move forward. And so what we've been looking at, and this is something we're asking the board and the community for, if they have feedback on this, and that would actually, the survey that you sent out would actually be helpful with that as well. But the goal that Sarah just talked about, we're looking at revising that to make it kind of 2 areas that we want all kids to graduate. This is the hill we're gonna die on when they graduate from preschool, that they know their 26 letters, lower and uppercase, as well as the numbers 1 through 10. So when they get to kindergarten, they're ready to start working on sounds and those things.
Part of the reason for that goal revision is we don't have as many Reading Corps members this year. So all of our students are getting the same instruction, but we don't have the members to provide those specialized instruction for those that need a little bit additional support. So with not all the kids getting the Peli assessment throughout the year, that kind of was the reason for shifting gears in terms of our goal revision. But
because the Peli assessment came with the Reading Corps members, so if we don't have Reading Corps members, they're not getting that assessment. So we decided that we met our goal, and then we're gonna shift it into an area that regardless of whether or not we have those people, we can still track assessment and see how these guys are doing. So goal 2, dealing with third grade third grade literacy, being able to pass essentially the MCA. The SMART goal that we had set with the World's Best Workforce Plan was to have 60.5, to increase from 60.5% to 65% in 2022 as measured by the MCA. We shared with the board a while back, we did not reach that goal of getting to 65%. However, we just came out of 2 of the most strange years of school that we've ever had, and doing a little more research on that. So our results in 2022, we had 59.4% of our students meet proficiency, so we're still right at that 60%. We have those benchmark schools that are like us that Chip talked about earlier. There are 12 schools that we look at how we rank in, and we came out 5th among those schools that have similar populations to ours. And we also showed very little drop in our scores due to COVID. We had, compared to those benchmark schools at the elementary level, we had less than a 2% drop, while the benchmark schools averaged about an 8% drop with COVID. And I think a lot of that we can point to the fact that we stayed in person with our youngest learners that entire time. And so we did not meet the goal, but we feel like we also weathered a pretty tough storm and came out of it okay. See, next slide.
Scott, when we see these, and you go to your parent-teacher conferences and you have this scores, then you have the NWEA scores. Are they different things, or what?
Yeah, they're.
Kinda confused.
No, that's a great question, because they're different assessments. The MCA is a statewide test, written and put out by MDE, and then we give it using Pearson technology. NWEA is a standardized test form that is used by many districts across the nation because it allows you to compare yourself to on a national level, not just the state level.
Sure.
And also lets you compare yourself to your own school. So you can look at within our school, would this kid will be considered at risk? Well, how about at a national level, would this kid will be considered at risk? And it's also just looking at the fact that they're all one measure, right? You know, I can give you this test and maybe you had a bad day and maybe you're sick to your stomach. So it gives us multiple measures.
So do we do both of those, the beginning and the end of the year, is that how that works? Or how often are each administered?
So the MCA we only take once in the spring, and that's only in third grade. So that kind of takes your whole preschool up to third grade, and then they take that. The NWEA we take in second grade and third grade for both math and reading. And then before that, our most primary kids take what's called the FAST, which is a little bit more primary of a test. It gets into specific, like, do they know beginning sounds? Do they know, whereas the other one is more testing their ability to comprehend. And Sarah, feel free to jump in on any of this too.
One of the other reasons we take the NWEA, the MCA is really looking at a grade level. So you have a ceiling. If you're a third grader, the top that you can get is the top of third grade. If you're taking the NWEA, you could be at a 12th grade reading level, and we would find that out. And so it really gives us, it also measures growth from year to year. So it gives us that information to say, where are you growing? What do you look like over time? So now that I have an 8th grader, I can look back all the way down and say, okay, this is where you've been. This is the trajectory you've been on. What are some of those reasons?
Yep.
And it gives us a little bit more information. And the MCA is a required piece and is helpful. We, at least at the middle school, use the NWEA data a lot more for programming and planning than we do with an MCA.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Sorry.
Great question. So with our reading goal for third grade, one of the things we're also trying to do is align all of this more with the strategic plan that the district has been working on for years, so that we're aligning our efforts. And so we're wanting to revise this goal to focus on the same exact goal that we have in our strategic plan, which would be that among our benchmark districts by 2027, among those 12 districts that we would rank top or darn close.
Is that the same ones that we've identified that are same similar size?
Yep, and that's our goal, is to get there.
Perfect.
Yep. And it was interesting, for what it's worth, we looked at the percentage points, and right now we're 5th. I think it was in reading, a 1.5% or 2% would have moved us to 2nd. So it's that close. Next slide. Goal area 3 had to do with achievement gaps and reducing or eliminating the achievement gaps. We're a unique district in that we don't have a great deal of diversity, at least ethnically, we don't have a great deal of diversity in our district, and so for that reason, we don't have high enough sample sizes to really identify any achievement gaps per se that way. We do have free and reduced lunch data, though, that we can look at to see, how do those kiddos who qualify for free and reduced lunch do compared to students across the state. Our findings were that in 2022, our free and reduced lunch group performed 15.3% better than the state free and reduced component, as compared to 11.6 better in 2019. So we've been doing better than the state in that, and getting better as we go. I think part of that again is statewide there was a lot of drop off with the 2 years of COVID that we did experience. State average still outperforms our free and reduced, and what I mean by that is our free and reduced, if we just take our free and reduced population and hold it up to the entire state, the state still outperforms us slightly in that regard. When we compare our free and reduced to the state's free and reduced, we compare much better. And then goal area 4, all students are ready, career and college ready. I was gonna have Nate speak to this, and I don't think Nate's here. But I can just share, their goal was that they would have from 72.5% in 2020, that they would get up to 75% of seniors in 2022 earning 3 or more college credits or CNA certification or be enrolled in an apprenticeship or cooperative program. And the results were actually 76% of our seniors had one of those areas or one of those qualifications. 53, and that's broken down there, 53% had 3 or more college credits, a little less than 1% had CNA certification, and 39% were in an apprenticeship or co-op. And then graduation rate, the goal was that trying to get ourselves to 100% graduation rate on a 3-year average. And the last 3 years are listed there with a 3-year average of 98.2, which is very strong. But we're trying to get to 100%, so we're gonna keep going there. And again, we welcome your feedback. If you have suggestions or questions on any of the pieces I just shared with you, we're very open to that. And then what the plan would be to do is take that and go back and just make minor tweaks where we have met our goal or feel like it needs to be revised. And then we would republicize this and then share it with the state by, I think Chip said December 1st or something is when that's due.
And maybe not just for you, Scott, but whoever wants to answer it. So we'd have our peer group, the 12 people, or the 12 other districts that are relatively same size and demographics. But if an individual were looking or choosing surrounding school districts, you know, they're in our district, do we have information that, you know, I just moved into town, swinging by to see what Minnewaska has to offer me, I'm gonna be looking around at the other schools. Do we have data that we can say, and we show individuals like how we compare to the surrounding districts?
You know, I don't think we have it in a document right now where we do that. We definitely have access to the data to look at that. I do know that they're not officially one of our benchmark district or groups, but we did add Glacial Hills data in our spreadsheet just because they're right next door and people make a choice there. And thankfully, right now, we're outperforming them strongly. And, but that's something we haven't actually put together a document though that says, here's how we compare to those right around us.
Yeah,
And
and
Sorry, that's one thing we've asked Deb to do. She's been testing kids, but she pulled those schools first. Then we've asked for our conference schools. So that's most of the people around us. It's not necessarily like Alexandria, obviously would be out of our conference, but we can pull that one as well. But we've asked
So
for
we did is we
the next
pulled,
pieces.
this is the data they're talking about, that we pulled down. This is the list, so.
Yep, on the 12.
So the state was at 44.6% proficiency in 2022, we were at 56.2. So we picked Laverne, and these are our like size schools, and we picked Glacial. So it'd be important that math overall, you know, we're at 56.2% proficient, and Glacial is 33.3. We could pull those for all of our districts, but, you know, in our own district, when there's school choice, our test scores are pretty much twice as high as our neighbor. So,
But you're asking, say ASB.
but if we wanna go Sakis
They
or,
wanna know.
Well,
where they
yeah,
want
I'm just,
to
you
get.
know, I mean, if I'm rolling into
Yeah.
town and,
Like if someone's relocating for a job, they're trying to figure out where they wanna live.
no, or even if they've been here forever, I mean,
You
we
can
have
tell.
that answer.
it's very easy, cause you know, like this fall, when we told you that our data was in Fargo. Now you can go and you can look in any school district in the state and have real access. So here's reading, Minnewaska was 52.2. You know, the state was 51%, but this will tell you, you know, where we're at, and then we put Glacial down, they were at 27.8% proficient. So,
Yeah, this is good
So we can pull
to measure
data
ourselves
pretty
against like size, but it would be nice to know how we stack up against our neighbors.
We could easily pull that together.
Not
And
necessarily
and our
compare
taxpayers,
ourselves,
that'd be good for them to, I mean, you don't have to call them out, but however you
can at least just say the surrounding.
this is what we've been doing, this is what's going on.
I
Or at least to be able to give an educated answer if a parent asks us when they're, because we do have those parents that call us shopping and they want to know what we offer and how do you compare.
What, for the target of your new, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought, but.
Revising.
Revising, thank you, when you revised your goals, what, is there a penalty for not making these goals, or it's just something we're striving for, right?
I mean, it's something we're striving for. We do turn our summary in every year to the state, you know,
It's not like a funding.
What do they
thing,
do?
you know, right?
not that I'm aware of, not
They put it in
necessarily.
a file.
They don't care.
I was gonna say.
My first year, I
just
got,
for
I used to do
Yes.
this.
ourselves, pretty much?
care.
There isn't,
Yeah.
there
I used to
isn't
do this and I didn't do it in my first year here because I was like very overwhelmed. So we didn't submit one that year and I did call down there because we were on the list, like, so what happens if I don't turn in? Well, I would go out, your name would go on the list. Who sees the list? Well, if the commissioner, she pulled it, so I didn't do it.
They're not gonna pull it unless something bad happens.
I was just
The
curious.
MD
It isn't like
don't come.
years ago where there were sanctions that could happen and stuff,
I
and it
didn't
isn't
think
like
there
that.
was, I just was curious.
It's good for us.
It's good for us, but it is an example of unfunded mandate. Well, cause like, I mean, one of the things that I would just say, okay, the state of Minnesota tells you to do this, which is an example of stupidity. Okay? You just briefed us that 75% of all students show proficiency. You don't fund 75% of our kids, so 25% don't need to go to preschool, because currently in our school district, 25% don't. And so you can go down and ask our 4 kindergarten teachers, out of your classroom, which do you think 25% didn't go to preschool? And they'll tell you identically who they are. Because you know, they can, there are great preschool kids, because there are some kids in kindergarten that, you know, their parents or their grandparents have taken them in, or they go to a very structured daycare that can do this, but, my point though is like, the state of Minnesota requires you to do this, but they don't fund it.
And it doesn't really matter, I mean, it's good to have measurable goals. We don't, I mean, we have strategic goals, which are, they're good to have, and they're great, but they're not necessarily measurable.
No.
These are measurable,
Yep.
you need to have both. So
All my
I think
point
you're
was
doing a
like,
good job.
if they want us to do this, they should fund it, right? Like,
Yeah.
it should truly, it should be something that you should just be able to fund, you know? It's like, if you want every 5-year-old to know all their letters,
And some of these revisions are geared toward trying to align more what we're required to do with World's Best Workforce to what the district has already identified as our focus, so that when we're reporting on one, we're reporting on the other, and it's.
One quick question on that 25% that don't get into preschool. I mean, why aren't they getting in? Don't they know about it? Do they don't wanna do it?
So,
What do
great
we do
question.
to crack that egg?
So we just did a survey because we had that same question. So during conferences, we created a very short survey that we put outside the door on a little kiosk with an iPad for every family to either on their way in or their way out, do this quick survey. We asked them, did your child attend preschool? If they did they attend with us? And if they didn't, where did they attend? And then we asked, why did you choose that versus us? And it was interesting, and I'll share the data with Chip and with the board, because it is really kind of interesting to look at and read. It was somewhere a little over 60% of the kids, I would say right around 90% did go to preschool. And then it's like 61 or something percent went with us. And then the rest of them, it's just like a pie chart of little slivers of where they went. They went to Lowry, they went to Kingdom Kids, they went to, and then the reasons are kind of things you might expect, just the different families, different needs, different choices. Some of them said because there's a religious aspect that you can't have in the public school, and some of them said it's because it's closer to where I work, and some of them, you know, and it kind of was encouraging to me. You'll have to read it and get your own take on it too, but because it kind of made me go, it isn't like we're losing all of our kids here. We're really not. We get the bulk of them, and then there's this kind of scatter of where the rest all go and for different reasons.
And if you're losing them for things out of your control, or if
Yeah.
you're losing for things in our control,
Yeah.
that'd be nice to know, though.
Another,
Fix
another
that.
thing, another thing that came out is, some of them did say we're going somewhere else because you have all day, every day. And some of them, when we asked, what can we do better, they said, can we have an all day, every day option? So that's something we've already been talking about, you know, so I think that's a direction we can look at, but. interesting data we'll get to.
Cool,
Yeah,
thanks.
I look forward to that.
This is good.
Yep.
Looking for a motion to approve it. I'll make the motion. Thanks, Zach. Need a second?
I'll say it.
Thanks, Angie. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Scott, PALS program.
Oh,
Okay, here.
Busy man.
You can't go yet.
okay. So
Earlier
let-
this year, I encouraged,
Yeah, go ahead.
really wanted, us to encourage, you know, in this building, we really focus on, security, older kids. But I thought my previous district, I did it a few times, it was watchdogs, the only problem I didn't like about watchdogs, dog stands for dads of great students. And I was like, how do we get all parents, grandparents, everybody involved? Sometimes just having more people, getting more people involved, you know, in our buildings could be great. And Scott and his team took it around with it, so it's just great to have.
Yeah, so, like Chip said, the model in some ways after that Watchdogs program that Chip had, and I had actually one in my previous building as well. And I think we did a good job of capturing the components of that we feel like are really gonna benefit the district but also inclusive of letting our female role models be a part of this as well, so. Next slide. So, part of why this is important too, we're a Title I building, and if you're not familiar with Title I is a huge federally funded educational program that provides dollars to schools. We are the only building in this district that has title dollars coming in to support our building. It's based on free and reduced numbers is how that allocation is given to different districts and to different schools. And the goal of it is to be able to help students be successful in the mainstream classroom. So we use a lot of that for, like we pay for an intervention teacher with that. And what it has to do with this is Title I also requires that you take steps to engage your community, engage your families. And so that was part of where this came from. It also came from a conversation that we had with the Safe and Welcoming Committee at a district level of how can we involve parents more now that COVID's over in a way that builds community. So next slide, Chip. So we came up with parents assisting Laker students, and that's what the PALS piece is, parents and caregivers. Next slide. The goal is to provide positive role models in the building to enhance our school safety, because we're doing a lot right now with Alice and other things to be a safe environment. And also to allow parents an opportunity to experience our day-to-day operations in the school, because a lot of our parents, unless they you know are volunteering a lot, don't know what the day-to-day operations are like. Next slide. I do think that there's something to be said for trying to make sure that we do target our male role models as well, just because statistically they tend to be underrepresented. It tends to be mostly our mothers, grandmothers who volunteer. That's very much that way in my building right now. So one of the things we are trying to do is make sure that we reach out as well to fathers and male role models as part of this program. Next slide. The benefits, if you do this, if you decide to be a Laker Pal for a day, it gives you the opportunity to be a positive role model in a building for over 400 children, a better understanding of your child's school day, and a better and more collaborative Laker community. And so what are the duties? So basically, if you're a Laker Pal, you sign up, and I'll show you that here in just a second, and then you get to be with us, and you're part of our school for a day. So when you arrive, you'll be supervising arrival. We're one of the adults supervising arrival. You're one of the adults supervising dismissal. You help out with supervising the cafeteria as well as the playground. And there's guidelines put around that. Like we tell them, you know, when they come on board, they get a clipboard that has in there, you know, your job is never going to be to discipline students, but you can let an adult know who works in the building if there's a problem, so that we can handle those types of things. You get to be the heroes in the hall. You'll see in a second, we have a t-shirt that they get to wear while they're on duty, and that's so that they can be recognized. And when the morning announcements will say, we have Mr. Meisner is our Laker Pal in the building today. And then also supporting teachers in the classroom. So we have a schedule that the person will follow, and part of their day will also be going to different classrooms, helping set up in PE, helping be even in their child's classroom. We'll make sure that every time that the parent does this, that they're also in their own child's classroom, supporting with reading, supporting with sight words, math, things like that. Next slide. So if a person wants to do this, what do they need to do? There's an example of the t-shirt right there that they get to wear. And they sign up. We're gonna have a sign up online that they just put in that they want to do it. There'll be dates. We're only opening this right now because we're starting off on Wednesdays for the remainder of the year. And so if a person wanted to do this, they go on the website, they select the date that they would like to do. They do have to complete a background check 10 days prior, and we're asking the family, it's $15 to do that. We're asking the person who volunteers to cover that. However, we will scholarship it if they can't. We don't want that to be a burden or a hindrance, but at the same time, we do want to ensure that if we have people that we're, putting in our building for safety's sake, that they're safe people and that they've been vetted. Then they show up and they gear up, they get their clipboard, they get their picture taken so that we can put them on our wall of fame as a Laker pal. And then they get to spend the day making a difference. Here's some pictures of when my building had a watchdog program, which was similar. This is what it was, and you can see that they were just a positive presence in the building, again for safety. And then we had that wall of fame there that we would put up, and every time somebody volunteered, we'd take their picture with their child and put it on the wall that they came in and they were a Laker pal. This is an example of what the sign up would look like on the website. It would just be a link to a form that would alert us with an email that somebody has signed up, and then give them what they need for the background check and get them going. And then if they have questions or whatever, we can help them through that process too within our office. But when I had this similar program in my building, and I'm sure Chip can speak to this probably just as well, what I was really amazed by is it really built cohesiveness between the families and the school. A lot of parents finished the day and came to us and said, man, I'm exhausted and I don't know how you guys do it. And when it comes to running things like bonds and levies, those tend to be some of your hugest advocates going, yeah, I'll make darn sure that we vote for you because I've been there and I've seen what you're trying to do and what you're trying to do with, and I want to support.
How many individuals do you think will sign up for it?
Our goal is to, it'll take some time to get rolling. Our goal is to fill our Wednesdays between now and the end of the year. Something else I was gonna throw out there, I'm just saying, is I think it'd be really cool if board members came on and did a Laker pal for a day, then you could be a part of our building and see what's going on. In my previous building, when we did this, we had parents that we provide the t-shirt and then they give it back at the end and we launder it and then use it again. But we had parents that took so much ownership in it that they would do it 2 or 3 times during the school year, and they said, where can I buy my own shirt? I wanna have my own, and it was just, kind of organic that way.
A couple things. On that, if the $15 fee is a hindrance, obviously you can get a waiver or whatever we called it.
You can scholarship it.
Could we do something even more like, it seems like free passes for activities? I mean, would that help? I mean, would people go, oh, that's pretty nice? Or would not, you know what I mean? They probably aren't coming to the games anyway right now, and maybe they would start coming. You know what I mean? You're not out anything either way. I mean, it just, or what other like benefits that aren't, I mean, what can we throw up that would help the program, so to speak? I'd be in favor of stuff like that in order to get, I mean, where you have to turn people away, too many, if that would ever happen.
Let's run it for a quarter and check back and see what we get for numbers. If we struggle with numbers, I think we can incentivize them anyways.
That's kind of easy throw in.
Seems like it.
No matter what, it's not gonna hurt you too bad as far as revenue goes
Or-
from activities.
How are you, I know I've seen this already, but it could have been from my email, but how are we telling the parents about this?
So I'm putting together a video that'll actually have this slideshow you just saw with me talking through it, and that's gonna get pushed out to families.
Via email?
Yes, by email, and so that they basically will be encouraged to watch the video. We'll also send that out. We talked about it already in our newsletter, but we'll also send out a specific communication about it. We have the pancake breakfast. Looking at the numbers, I think pancake, we're hoping to share some there. I think that's gonna be big, and I don't know if we're gonna be able to catch everybody, in one room. But
Cool. That might be a good spot for that, paper thing, that column.
Oh,
Yeah.
And maybe
spotlight thing.
throw it out to the churches, cause if you want the old people to know what's going on, you know, run it, a lot of churches will have what's going on.
Well, that's
Yeah,
the beauty of it
so
too, is
they
it
had
can
to
be a
acknowledge-
grandparent, and I had that in my previous building, there'd be people who would, their grandparents would sign up every year.
Well, in a couple aspects, they may not even do it, but if they're like, whoa, they are doing a lot of stuff around there, you know, just because we got it coming in a year.
I'll donate your t-shirts so you don't have to do laundry.
Thank you.
Should bring me.
Awesome. All right.
Ball starts rolling.
Now,
Two, we have kids in the building, three do, so here we go.
I would,
Pick your date,
I
we'll
was
just
trying
try.
to figure out how to get me
Make sure and bring a Sharpie for me.
a Sharpie.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Yes,
Now you can be done. All right, second reading, approval of the following policies. Good, consider those read? Okay, I'll make a motion to approve that second reading.
I can second.
Thanks, Zach, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. All right, announcements.
We have, next Monday night, a week from tonight, we have our board, candidate forum at 7 o'clock in the auditorium. There was a nice write-up in the paper today, so that's out there. If you're gonna look at the calendar, so that's the 24th. We got the fall break this week, just so everybody's aware, no school Thursday, Friday, those are pretty much closed. It's an in-service day on Monday, the 24th, and then, I'll be out next Thursday, Friday, at the National Superintendent Certification Program. And then a quarter is already on the 3rd, so people are aware. And then just, you know, it'll be on top of us before you know it, but, November 11th is on a Friday. So, if you're gonna be there, we usually have preferred seating up front with our board members, and go up, we go together. So usually you're here about 8:30 to welcome the veterans and then coffee. Angie's done tremendous work getting it together, so, go on from there.
Elementary students will probably join us this time.
Yep, they're all gonna be there. But those are the big dates, we got, the election coming up on the 8th for those that are running. I think we canvass it here on the 17th. Anything else, Ange, on the 11th? Okay, so then our regular board meeting's on the 21st. I don't have anything between then, so.
Okay.
So if you have questions, that's what we got out there for future dates.
All right, anything else before we adjourn? Nobody? Looking for that motion?
I'll make a motion.
Thanks, Zach, can I get a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Ted, all those in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Thanks, everyone.
Boom.
Rolling,
Nate. Nate. Did you look at what I sent?
Since we
We
shot
didn't see,
the
because
Google,
it's
this is-
beneficial.
It's